Imagine waking up each morning with a weight on your chest, not a physical one, but an emotional burden that has been there for so long that you barely remember life without it. The sky outside may be bright, but your internal weather forecast remains persistently cloudy. This is the reality for millions living with persistent depressive disorder, a chronic form of depression that can color a person's entire life experience. What is persistent depressive disorder? Persistent depressive disorder, formerly known as dysthymia, is a chronic form of depression characterized by a depressed mood that persists for at least 2 years in adults, or 1 year in children and adolescents. Unlike major depressive episodes that come and go, PDD lingers, becoming an unwelcome companion in one's daily life. The symptoms may not be as severe as those experienced during major depression, but their persistence can be equally debilitating. Many describe it as functioning through a fog, going through the motions of life, without experiencing its full vibrancy. The clinical picture. Clinically speaking, persistent depressive disorder is diagnosed when an individual experiences a depressed mood for most of the day, more days than not, for at least 2 years. During this period, the person must also experience at least 2 of the following symptoms: poor appetite or overeating, insomnia or hypersomnia, low energy or fatigue, low self-esteem, poor concentration or difficulty making decisions, feelings of hopelessness. What makes PDD particularly challenging is that these symptoms become so ingrained in a person's daily experience that they may be mistaken for personality traits rather than symptoms of a treatable condition. The invisible struggle. Sarah, a 34-year-old teacher, spent most of her adult life believing she was simply a pessimistic person. "I just thought I was someone who didn't get excited about things," she explains. "I could function, I could work, I could even laugh sometimes, but there was always this undercurrent of sadness and fatigue. It wasn't until my therapist suggested I might have PDD that I realized this wasn't just my personality." This is a common experience for those with persistent depressive disorder. The chronic nature of the condition means that many individuals adapt to their symptoms, developing coping mechanisms that allow them to function despite the persistent low mood. Friends and family might describe them as always serious, naturally pessimistic, or low energy, without recognizing these as symptoms of a mental health condition. The double depression phenomenon. To complicate matters further, individuals with persistent depressive disorder can also experience episodes of major depression, creating what clinicians call double depression. During these periods, the already persistent low mood deepens significantly, making daily functioning even more challenging. Approximately 75% of people with PDD will experience at least one episode of major depression during their lifetime. When the major depressive episode resolves, most individuals return not to a neutral state, but to their baseline of persistent depression. The impact on daily life. Living with PDD affects every aspect of daily life. Work performance may suffer due to fatigue and concentration difficulties. Relationships may be strained as the individual struggles to engage emotionally or feels consistently negative. Even simple pleasures may lose their appeal, as anhedonia, the inability to feel pleasure, is a common symptom. Michael, a 45-year-old accountant who has lived with PDD for over 2 decades, describes it this way: "It's like I'm always walking uphill. Everything takes more energy. Making plans, keeping up with friends, even deciding what to have for dinner. It all feels harder than it should. And the worst part is knowing that tomorrow will bring the same struggle." The biological basis. Research suggests that PDD, like other forms of depression, has biological underpinnings. Neurotransmitter imbalances, particularly involving serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine, play a role. There appears to be a genetic component as well, with PDD often running in families. Brain imaging studies have shown differences in activity in certain regions of the brain in individuals with chronic depression, particularly in areas involved in mood regulation and emotional processing. These findings further validate that PDD is not simply a matter of attitude or perspective, but a real medical condition with neurobiological components. Treatment approaches. The good news is that effective treatments for persistent depressive disorder exist, although the chronic nature of the condition often means that treatment needs to be sustained over time. Psychotherapy, particularly cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and interpersonal therapy, can help individuals identify and change negative thought patterns and improve interpersonal relationships. These approaches can be especially helpful for those who have adapted to their depression and may not realize how their thoughts and behaviors contribute to their persistent low mood. Medication, particularly selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs, and serotonin norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors, SNRIs, can help address the biological aspects of the disorder. Many individuals find that a combination of medication and therapy yields the best results. The challenge of treatment. Despite the availability of effective treatments, PDD presents unique challenges. Many individuals go undiagnosed for years or even decades, particularly if they've never experienced a major depressive episode that might prompt them to seek help. Even when diagnosed, the treatment process can be frustrating. Response to both medication and psychotherapy may be slower than with acute forms of depression, and finding the right treatment approach often requires patience and persistence. Additionally, the chronic nature of PDD means that relapse prevention becomes a crucial component of treatment. This may involve ongoing maintenance therapy, regular check-ins with mental health providers, and the development of robust self-care practices. Living well despite PDD. Despite these challenges, many individuals with persistent depressive disorder learn to manage their symptoms and lead fulfilling lives. This often involves a multifaceted approach that includes consistent engagement with professional treatment, development of a strong support network, regular physical activity, which has been shown to have antidepressant effects, mindfulness practices to break the cycle of negative thinking, structured routines to combat the inertia that often accompanies depression, self-compassion and acceptance. Elena, who has lived with PDD for 15 years, shares, "I've learned that my depression is like any other chronic condition, something I need to manage rather than cure. Some days are harder than others, but I've built a life that accommodates my condition while still allowing me to experience joy and connection." Breaking the stigma. One of the greatest challenges for those with PDD is overcoming the stigma associated with chronic mental health conditions. Because individuals with PDD can often function, albeit with significant effort, their suffering may be minimized or dismissed. Comments like, "everyone gets sad sometimes," or "just try to be more positive," reflect a fundamental misunderstanding of the condition and can be deeply harmful to those struggling with it. By sharing stories and increasing awareness about persistent depressive disorder, we can help foster greater understanding and compassion. This, in turn, can encourage more individuals to seek the help they need rather than assuming their persistent low mood is simply a personality trait they must endure. Conclusion. Persistent depressive disorder represents a significant challenge for those affected by it. Its chronic nature, often spanning decades, can reshape an individual's experience of life and sense of self. Yet with proper diagnosis and treatment, many find ways to manage their symptoms and reclaim aspects of life that depression had dulled. If you or someone you know has been experiencing persistent feelings of sadness, low energy, or hopelessness for an extended period, reaching out to a mental health professional could be the first step toward understanding and addressing these symptoms. Remember that chronic depression is not a character flaw or a life sentence. It's a treatable condition. With appropriate support and resources, those living with persistent depressive disorder can move beyond merely surviving to genuinely thriving, finding moments of joy and connection even amid the persistent fog of depression.